There's a rule called 403 in Texas, and it's a balancing test. And one of the biggest questions is, are you misleading the jury? And if an AI is going to be prompted on prior things to create a sort of moral background or ethical standpoint based on prior decisions, well, how is that not going to conflict with misleading the AI jury?
They be wishing death on me like 50 said. Many men. Trust me, there's a ton of them. I should
What
probably be
is
in there
up,
with
ladies
thugging
and
them,
gents?
being there with gunning them.
Welcome
If they
back,
locking niggas
folks.
up for growing
What
up
did you
around
say?
some
Welcome
haters
back.
tryna
Another
govern
episode
them.
of Stogies and Stuff. Episode what?
Episode 66.
66, brother.
Pick up sticks.
Always throwing them little Nicky references, guys. If you know, you know. Well, let's kick back, all right? Let's dive into some real talk,
Let's do it, bro.
Life risks and everything, all right? Just a world full of knowledge here for you guys. Breaking down agendas, putting our takes into it. I got my hosts, Johnny and Mike, Big Mike right here.
There we go.
Anyways, let's fire it up, guys. Let's get started into episode 66. I liked, guys, go ahead before I go into the theme.
Go ahead.
Hold on, he's finishing his banana nut bread there.
1 second.
You got some ASMR. One thing you're gonna notice about this, Mike chews fucking loud. So I'm sure Jesse gonna get this on camera. But we were talking about a theme, guys, because moving forward, we really want to make sure that our episodes are theme based. We did a great job, I think, for the most part, season 1, 2, and 3, breaking down agendas. But let's do a little bit of a deep dive, right?
Yeah.
And that's giving our episodes some themes. So that doesn't mean we're going to stop changing the topics that we talk about. Sometimes we'll talk about religion, ideology.
But it all plays into the theme.
Politics, self-development, etc. But yes, it all falls down to a theme.
Yeah, guys, a lot of the times that the thing we're trying to accomplish is to make sure that y'all have a takeaway from this. And there's different types of takeaways, like I was talking to Jonathan about. Among some of them are, there's deliverables where you're getting a how-to from this. And then there's information, and there's others, right? But information can be as simple as a PBD type style podcast where, in other days' news or in other news, this, etc. Mm-hmm. And we want to do a little bit more than that. What we want to do, besides everybody getting bombarded with news and these things that are happening, sometimes cool, sometimes very unfortunate events, is what is behind it all, right? And that was, from inception, the reason why my brother and I had started this. It was a lot of noise. A lot of noise in the news space. A lot of noise in talk. And we figured, you know what? Let's do an agenda-based podcast. And let's figure out what's the hidden agenda behind the decisions that these people are making. And as we go, we kind of get lost, or we kind of got lost. Not necessarily in that theme that we had, but we got caught up because you guys have you probably do. For those of you that are social media addicts. I wouldn't put myself as a social media addict, but I would put myself as a news junkie. And there's a lot of fucking shit happening every day. And you can get caught up in that noise and end up just having these takes on these things that, you end up just doing the same shit that the news do. And grounding ourselves again, we really want to be able to provide a theme that you all will be able to have a takeaway from these pods. In the sense of not just uncovering the hidden agenda, but now giving you a meaning behind that. And something that, whether it's information, like I've said, or a how-to be a better person, etc., whatever our intended takeaway is, we want you to get that.
Yes. Damn, Mike. You just broke it all down, bro. Broke it all down.
Yeah, that's what
so
I want to do.
Let's go into the actual theme, right? Because you broke it down, but let's give the theme an actual name. And the name we came up with, and Johnny put this on the beautiful whiteboard right behind him, was Risk Repackaged as Innovation. Fortunately, whenever I hear innovation, there's this one memory that comes in. I'm not going to even go into it, but we all know innovation. Sorry, man.
David, you know what's up.
Yeah, my blessings to you, brother. It was all love.
Yeah,
But
it was.
that sneaky way society tells us or sells us progress, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's a sure thing.
Yeah.
But I think what we're really going to go ahead and break down, and we'll go into it, is what's underneath it all.
Yeah.
What is underneath progress, right? From personal matters to ourselves in our daily lives, on how each and every one of us hears, values, or manages risk, to all the way across the UK. Mike, Johnny, and I stumbled across a Russell Brand video talking about how UK wants to look at their court progress, right? What the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was a real interesting.
So that's initially how we're going to package and tie it all together. Is innovation just, I guess, risk with, I don't know, just risk in a shiny, I don't know, what would you say, wrapper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Or
well, yeah, I mean,
I don't know, what can we learn from our own gambles?
Well, here to start off with that Russell Brand take, I thought it was real interesting what he was covering. And it was this idea that now AI has just gotten so good, I guess, that the UK, in an attempt, and what they repackage as innovation, right? But in an attempt to make the courts more efficient,
Right.
they are now considering introducing AI, whether it's GPT or whatever the case may be. It'd probably be the API code that they get to form whatever they want. But they're considering doing away with the jurors-based system, which has been there since the Middle Ages, and replacing the jurors with AI, right? Which is their attempt of making it a lot more efficient.
Let's get into it already. I wasn't going to go into it yet, but you're breaking it down already. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll give our personal
you brought
take.
it up. So I was like, I might as well just get into it.
Yeah, I wanted to tie the theme all together, what we're getting ready to talk about, but let's do that. Okay, and then we can put our personal take into it, because you already gave the breakdown. Mike's correct, what they're initially trying to do. So this was... Let me zoom in before I start. And matter of fact, let me bring up the volume. And I'll tell you when to start the video. So, going into about...
Yeah, well, let's see how that plays.
Let's talk about this.
There are already concerns about a reduction in the use of juries, which have been part of the justice system since the Middle Ages.
Trial by jury.
What's going on?
Seems like a good idea, but is it as good an idea as trial by chat GBT?
PT.
Oh, well, trial by jury has been a cornerstone of the justice system for centuries, and it definitely has its own strengths, like bringing in a...
So already, the biggest thing there, replacing people in the jury with AI.
With fake people.
That's right. So trial by jury is initially being asked to be managed entirely different, or proposed to be managed entirely different, right? That is, I guess,
well, that's a scary thought,
right?
Yeah, because how does that make it more efficient? Like, is it because right now, guys, the idea is this. My understanding, because obviously I don't practice in the UK, so I can only go off of what's reported and what Russell Brand was talking about. But apparently they're having a backlog, which is everywhere, and we have that here too. But there's a backlog in the court system for criminal cases. And they have some higher priority, higher profile criminal cases, such as those involving sexual violence, sexual acts, rape, etc. I don't want to get into that. But the idea is, how can they speed up the court process?
Yeah, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to fix a court backlog.
Yeah.
And I think the person taking lead, or what initially Brand is doing here, Russell Brand, is he's breaking down the Leveson Review. Basically a government report that was from mid-2025, and it's aimed at fixing the court's backlogs. Yeah,
Okay.
as he just said. But his take on it all is basically it's being packaged as a Trojan horse for control.
Yeah. Right. And that's the idea. And they're trying to say, oh, this is an innovation. This can help with court efficiency. This
They're
can
bringing up all the pains.
incentivize
Yeah.
basically being a pleading guilty and all for control, right? Because another takeaway from that is they're trying to tell the people, look, if the earlier you plead guilty, you can reduce your sentence up to 40% pleading guilty. And it's like, how does that, how does that incentivize the rights of people, right? So you have, and it's a total different base court system, guys, but I'm going to tell you how it works here. One of the most important things that a criminal defense lawyer has here is a right to a speedy trial. So you have the right to go to trial as fast as possible. But within those rights, which is why it's not a black and white situation, is you also have the rights to receive all the information that's being alleged against you. So you see how that counterplays, because the longer the authority or the government can keep that information from you or give it piecemeal or whatever, which is usually the tactic, the longer it goes against your right to a speedy trial. And that the thing here that I see the conflict within UK, I don't know if they have a speedy trial like the US does, is if they incentivize pleading guilty early, then are they depriving them of the right to be able to question the government? What the fuck do you have against me, and why do you have that against me?
Well, yeah, that's exactly what was put here. It's like, well, what saves time? So the incentive is, okay, allow us just to give you the sentence of guilty faster. Fuck having any kind of trial, any kind of jury. It's just going to go straight to the judge. The judge is going to decide. But guess what? You'll have 40. The incentive is you're going to do 40% less than the average time that we normally give for sentences that are. And again, they're framing it as for specific type of cases. Like, I think I read, let's see.
Sexual assault.
Let's see. Yeah.
Incest.
So you got fraud, sexual assault, drunk driving, animal cruelty, even child porn or incest cases. That's what they're putting up here. But, I mean, we know nothing is ever perfect.
Right.
Again, we brought up the fact of, what's really underneath progress, right?
Right.
These are risks that they're saying they should take without having, or the public should be accepting of taking the risk without any kind of due diligence or any kind of trial. It's like, hey, you were accused. Now we're just going to leave it up to the judge. And if he gives you a sentence, great. You're going straight to it and you'll do less time, but it was quick. And that's it.
Like, what is the real innovation here?
Nothing other than speed.
Well, they're just repackaging it as technology being more accurate, and that it can make more accurate decisions quicker. But that's a very interesting take about forcing guilty pleas on people, because the idea is that with these higher or elevated crimes, I'm gonna assume the assumption is that they're forcing the guilty plea on you because they know you did it, right? Therefore, let's hurry this up and then let's get you convicted. Is that the case though? Is that the case, or are they still entitled to their time in court that way to prove their innocence, if anything?
Yeah, because guys, this exacerbates.
It's a good word. It's a 50-cent word right there.
Exacerbates. Yeah, it exacerbates the implications of fake outcries. You've got someone who now wants to basically, what's the word? It starts with an E. Besides exacerbate. When they want to fucking use leverage against you to get money.
Blackmail.
Exploit.
Exploit. You could use that one. Exploit. Like with the Shannon Sharp situation. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, bring that out, or do you want to wrap this one up, before we get into that?
Yeah, we'll wrap that up before we bring up those points.
All right.
I want to play another part of the clip.
All right, go ahead, play it.
We're at
Evolving
124.
power and having localized in regional courts. How about minding your own business? How about resigning? How about taking to task and indeed to trial a corrupt media that lied to an entire population during the pandemic? How about a massive revision of our entire parliamentary system? No. The problem is trial by jury. What we have to do is cleanse every single corner of our nation of the influence of ordinary people.
That's the warning from one of Britain's top judges. The government's thrown money at the problem, but it's still getting worse.
The answer is put Tommy Robinson and Andrew Tate in prison immediately. We've asked the top judge, we've thrown money at the problem. Where did that money go? To the top judge? I'm not suggesting.
There are more than 75,000 cases waiting to go to trial,
Fuck.
the most there's ever been. Sir Brian Levison has been asked to sort it out.
You've got to go through the whole system and try to improve it, not only so that we no longer have an increasing backlog, but that we can eat into the backlog and reduce it to a level that is acceptable so that trials can take place within a reasonable period of time.
We've got to get rid of the backlog. It's an idea that's been normalised by mainstream journalists for a while. Here's a couple of...
Yeah.
Right? So that's basically everything we were talking about before we played this clip.
The backlog.
And then the next part of the clip that I want to show, maybe about right here. We're talking about that.
If the defendant pleads guilty at the first opportunity. The government has said it will now go through the recommendation.
Right there.
Absolute worst ones.
Potentially lower prison sentences if the defendant pleads guilty at the first opportunity. The government has said it will now go through the recommendations and bring in new laws in the autumn. But there are already concerns about a reduction in the use of juries, which have been part of the justice system since the Middle Ages.
Now when people talk about medieval times and the Middle Ages, it'll be with misty-eyed nostalgia. You know, in Pulp Fiction when he says, I'm going to get medieval on your ass.
You hear me talking, hillbilly boy? I'm going to get medieval on your ass.
No, it doesn't mean butchery with dangerous weapons. It would mean a trial by jury.
Paula Harriet runs a charity that supports those with criminal records.
I do worry about that. That is one of the concerns that I have about the review, that defendants won't have the opportunity for a trial in front of their peers.
Yeah.
And that will be in the hands of people who maybe don't have the same level of proximity to the issues as members of the public do.
That's true.
Modern trials
Like, think about
are
it.
taking
Someone
on-
that has that poverty level where they have no idea what the fuck the AI.
Well, that's what we're saying
is-
too. Not only for AI, but also for the judges. Because right now we haven't even touched how they're. I mean, they've briefly talked about AI already in this video, but right now they're focused more on eliminate jury first for speedy trials. Just get the judge to get in there and put his take into it. But the judges are not going to necessarily have the same background or be able to really comprehend where this person is coming from.
Yeah.
They're just going to see an act as an act. For instance, if you have a judge that's never experienced any type of poverty or any kind of, I don't know, pressures of, normal life, right? How you're going to initially deal with putting some food on the table for your family. And you were forced because economy is currently very, very hard to provide for your family. So you took a desperate measure and you probably did some form of theft, because theft was included in the list, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was.
And so speedy trial, you know what? You're guilty, great. You're going to do 2 years. What was the actual reason? Present this to somebody, and yes, we agree. The people agree that it is really tough. We're not saying this was right, but maybe form of probation instead will help out. And find a way to make back what you stole back to the original owner.
Well, that's you hit it right on the nail, man. I love to use that with you because you did. You keyed on a very important concept called intent. So there is a concept in criminal law here, at least. I'm not sure how it translates into the UK, but it's mens rea, which essentially that's Latin. Let me get the specific Latin phrase.
Bust it out, bro. I love to hear all these Latin phrases, man.
Like the definition, or
Correct.
a guilty mind.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. There's a guilty act and guilty mind.
Guilty mind, correct. Yeah. And the idea is it goes into intent. So it's why did you do it? And the AI does not have the ability to consider that why, because it requires a moral understanding. It requires a moral understanding of the person's intent. And it's the years old question of, if someone steals a piece of bread, like you were talking about already, touching on, if someone steals a piece of bread because they're dying, like they're literally dying and they need food for themselves and their family, are they guilty of the theft? Or is it an excuse, or does it require criminal punishment, or does it require intervention to help the public? Because at the same time, these acts go into law reform. I think something that people don't fully understand is, of course, there's the theoretical way where you have the judicial, and here, I'm talking about here. Because obviously, guys, the point of we're bringing this up is because this is going to have a ripple effect. And this can come over here, and it will be repackaged as innovation, or look, we have a testing ground in the UK where we tried it. It's working for them. Let's fucking do it over here. You're going to have some bullshit fucking congressman introduce it. Yeah. The way it's supposed to be is like this, between the systems, judicial and, legislative. Legislative is supposed to make bills. Judicial is supposed to interpret based off of legislative's context for the people. But it's a constant reform because as it goes and gets tested in the system, judicial brings up the common law or the interpretation of it, how it's affecting people. And then you have reform of the bill, etc. But if you begin to automate the judicial and you begin to make the judicial utilize a non-juror-based system of AI, then guess what? The law almost essentially becomes uneditable because the AI is only going to interpret what Congress' intent was. Mm-hmm.
Well, and Congress
is all based on who's fucking elected.
Well, that's what I was going to get at now. There's no real due diligence anymore. So these people that you're getting in there now, they're just in there just to have some form of status.
Yeah.
And if they're going to just solely rely on AI and just to automate the process,
yes.
Do they really actually want to do any work anymore? Yeah. So it's how the risk is repackaged. Innovation, right? And I mean, I get it.
Guys, these judges are overworked. They're overworked. Look, it's not easy presiding over a case time and time again, different trials, hearing a lot of the same issues, but different stories. And of course, they want to make it easy for themselves too. They see AI as this whole deal, and they're like, you know what? I want to implement that too. But hold on now. What's the risk here?
Oh,
it's not just going to affect the people. It's going to affect your ass too. You're going to be out of a job. Next thing you know, they're going to say, we can use AI judges.
That's what I say then. Then this can't necessarily be packaged as progress. The high stakes are bet on tech.
Yeah.
As opposed to humanity.
And the question is, what are we sacrificing in the name of efficiency and security? Efficiency being the speediness of it, and then if it's done accurately, and then security as to will people have the decision power in the future, right? As opposed to the actual AI. Because I mean, the fact that you brought it up, right? The reason why we're bringing up this topic is because, like Mike was saying early on, this podcast is basically we're providing information of what's going on in the world, because it happening in the UK can eventually lead or come across the sea or the Atlantic Ocean and, be something that can be implemented here in the US. But it's interesting. It's interesting in the sense that we, as of now, from what we've heard from the legacy media, is that the UK is very liberal now.
Extremely.
That's what it sounds like.
You can't put it right.
You can't even put a social media post without getting threatened to be put in jail.
That right there. Because I believe in the video it touched on a lot of the crimes that are awaiting trials because of crimes like that, like a
social
Facebook
media.
post.
I think it was like 12,000 people that he shared that were arrested solely off of social media posts.
Exactly. So that
how
leads into
the fuck does that make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah.
And then you motherfuckers want to ask like, oh, fuck America and act like, the U.S. sucks. At least you have freedom of speech, motherfuckers. Like, get the fuck over your little high horse and acting like
no shit. People
U.S.
being
is so bad
over fucking
you remember that these people that you initially, prefer over your own country, they don't even give you the rights that you think you automatically deserve or and entitled to. Absolutely. They say, fuck that.
So
is that progress?
Yeah, right. So would you all consider this risk, because it is a risk, to be truly innovative?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of underlying issues, especially here from what this UK court system is talking about, right? For example, the backlog. For example, all these cases that they're charging or being charged or trying to adjudicate, a lot of them seem very unnecessary, right? In the sense that, like,
oh, the types of charges, right?
Right. These types
petty
of
charges,
right?
Like, name it.
Yeah, like I mean, should there be reform on the actual crime itself?
Yes.
Right. That's one.
Yeah, because they're already putting the cart before the horse, literally. Exactly. As opposed to addressing why are so many people getting charged with this shit.
Right.
Maybe there's something wrong with the laws. They're saying, no, there's nothing wrong with our laws.
Yeah, and in the sense that, like, I guess let me ask y'all this question. Would y'all be, where do y'all lean more towards? Like getting a trial by 12 people of your peers or AI? What would you rather have?
What would you rather have, Mo?
What would I rather have between which again? Can you repeat that?
So like let's say you're in trial, right? You're the defendant. You're being charged of X crime. Would you rather have a jury, 12 people of your peers decide your fate, or would you have AI do that?
No, I'd rather have the people. And why? Because I think we've come to learn that AI, for the most part, at least right now, it's not that advanced as much as we think it is. Mm-hmm. It's getting there, but overall, nonetheless, it's safe to assume it works off of algorithms, right? And so, if this AI that's currently put into place works off of an algorithm that has picked up on past injustices and has learned that pattern, then guess what the fuck is going to happen? Well, you know what? Based on everything I've gathered, especially in this area, yeah, the normal thing is to say he's just guilty.
Right.
I really don't care. It just sped through it all. There was no consideration whatsoever.
That's a really good.
So then I'm
point.
like, well, fuck, I just got fucked. This was only worth $10.
Really good point.
I stole something worth $10, and I'm gonna do 2 years. What the fuck, and nigga? I was about to die.
I'm gonna comment really quick on that. And 2 cents. There's a rule called 403 in Texas, and it's a balancing test. And one of the biggest questions is, are you misleading the jury? And if an AI is going to be prompted on prior things to create a sort of moral background or ethical standpoint based on prior decisions, well, how is that not going to conflict with misleading the AI juror, right? Like, what if it's just as simple as, since it's all about prompting, the prosecution using prompted sort of scripts or works to have the AI work in its favor. Mm-hmm. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
No, I mean, you got me. You added right when I was already finishing. So that's my stance. I'd rather actually have a jury explain my part, and then, if they catch me being full of shit, then all right. But if they can go ahead and humanize themselves and be like, no, I mean, look, what he did was wrong, but at the end of the day, I probably would have done the same thing if I was in his position. There was no other option for this young man. It was either life or death. He chose life temporarily. We'll give him an opportunity to right his wrong. Doesn't mean he's not going to go unpunished, but it's not going to be an extreme punishment. This took an hour of our time as opposed to 30 seconds.
So the job of the jurors here is essentially to hear all the evidence, and then based off the evidence, just make a decision on the conviction, whether or not he's guilty or innocent. But this is of course, as a human, you get to empathize or sympathize, or maybe cut people some slack. Mm-hmm. But of course, based on the evidence.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But with that being said, if you eliminate that, right, and it's kind of like what you were saying, well, if you eliminate that entirely and leave it to an algorithm that's very logical, you eliminate, that leniency.
Yeah, man, because at the end of the day, I think this can come down to you guys. I always like the way you frame it. The idea, right? The idea. I hear that from you and Mike a lot. And I think over it all is proper due diligence. Due diligence is king. That's what I would say. And why do I say that? Because at the end of the day, at the end of it all comes down to who's putting in the work, how the risk is being managed, and what ideology or what preference do you have on how to manage all of this? Because at the end of the day, each and every person has their own values, their own management of progress, because we threw that out there also. So what does progress actually look like? What is the actual agenda behind that progress? And, what's it going to take Because in my experience of what's it going to take is what are you willing to give up in order to add on to this? So if you are going to promote or push for a specific successful outcome, and in this case mitigating or speeding up trial, what are you willing to sacrifice to do this? And so that comes down to a question for everybody personally. That's when we can get a little bit more personal with this. This is when we can go ahead and say, put our takes into managing risk. My biggest thing that I'm constantly preaching out to the team, right? So I like to consider all of us here leaders. And if you're watching this, you're probably one leader yourself, guys. Got a lot of respect for y'all, guys, especially if you're liking, subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That means you're a real OG. But I hate this. I am always preaching no paralysis, just action. And you have a lot of different ways of presenting that exact message. What is it? Paralysis by analysis is initially one. Sometimes there is such a thing as being too analytical and not doing anything. Now, in this case, I don't think we're being too analytical about how AI is being pushed in or trying to be pushed in through UK. They could probably have that approach that I'm currently preaching right now. No paralysis, just action. Okay, yeah, those issues might happen, but we need to take action. We need to fix the amount of cases we have because COVID playing a part did really put a huge backlog on us. And you know what? We're feeling it, you guys. But at the same time, they don't have the public's trust. Their previous actions are initially going against everything that they're currently preaching right now, that they want to go ahead and speed up this process and it's going to be ethical. I can't take your word for it. So I'm sorry to say everything you're preaching right now, they're full of shit. In my case, it all comes down still to the person. Values, what are they currently preaching? What is the actions that they currently take, not just their words? And so at least for my sake, the way I initially deal personally with risk management is if I'm okay with taking on the risk because I did all of my personal due diligence and I said, I'm willing to take this risk. And if it's a success, great, it works, celebrate, we continue to build on it. But if it's a failure and it flops, then, well, it was my best shot. I gave it my best and I dusted off. I started off the next time with some more experience. There wasn't necessarily full-on loss. Yeah, I might have lost some time, but I gained more experience. I might have become a little bit more wiser too. So now I'm getting a little bit deeper on my personal risk management, something I just wanted to kind of tie a theme into it all. Because I'm sure we all get into the funk of things of, wanting to take action on something, but then you get super critical on oneself and you say, no, I need to learn a little bit more. And before you know it, a whole year passes and you didn't do shit again. Another year passes and you're stuck in that new year, new me, and I'm going to do it again this time. And, it's fun to talk about because it's a trend and everybody's initially trying to do this. But, again, you're going down that same cycle again. Yeah. I'm not sure what y'all's takes are on it, though.
Well, I agree. I agree with you overall. I saw this interesting clip by PBD one time.
Oh, yeah?
And he said how he was talking to a friend of his, Patrick David, by the way, guys. He was talking about how he knows a lot of successful people. And one common trait that these ultra successful people have is the quick response. In other words, he asked, hey, can you get me this contact for this person, whatever. He's like, sure. Within minutes, he'll get a text providing that. Or he'll get information, whatever, real quick. And he says the idea behind successful people is going with it. Like you've got a good idea of it already. You're able to provide something, take the action and do it. So that was my takeaway from it. I'm sure there's a lot more into it, right? But that was a reflective sort of knee-jerk video that I saw from PBD that I felt he posted because he was in his car when he posted it. So I think that was just something in where he thought of it. Mm-hmm. But there's some truth to that. And the truth is, you got to decide. And like Maudi was talking about, in instances where there's paralysis by analysis, you're still deciding. The indecision is a decision. And that indecision is going to lead to more variables that you cannot control, which further delays the decision. And you just start throwing more things in the mix. Of course, shit's going to come up. But when you have enough of the ability to act now and do something actionable now, my position's always going to be, you got to take it. A lot of the times, everybody around me is telling me, hold up. Like literally, figuratively, and literally in life. And in my profession as well. I have, multiple voices telling me, well, hold on, let's not decide something. We need more this, more that. And it's funny because that's always a dilemma. I'm ready to go versus, well, hold on now. Right? And it's a good balance because it works out because more questions than answers come up. And I'm just like an answers kind of guy. I just want to get into it. I'll figure it out as we go. But it nonetheless is a good balance. It's a good balance because there's always, no matter what, even for the questioners, there's always going to be things you can't think of at that moment. You're going to have more questions no matter what. But I'll tell you this much. The longer you wait for anything, whether it's in construction, law, engineering, whatever, the longer you wait, the more questions are going to come up no matter what. The more variables are going to be thrown in the mix. So in other words, now is the time for if a decision is going to be made because those are the controlling variables at that moment.
Yep.
Right. And now it's subjective. It could be within a week. It could be within a day. It could be within a month. But obviously the shorter is the better of those. Mm-hmm. But just try to get as much info as you can.
So going back to, what you guys were talking about, essentially it's the in the decision making, y'all have a risk factor, right? Whether it's going to go well or not. So, with that being said, how much should you value the lesson being learned from the risk?
You want to give that one a go, Mo, to start?
Well,
it's a good question.
How well should you value the lesson being learned from the risk?
Or how much should you value?
Like the risk weight. Right. When I say it's like lesson, risk.
Right, because when you make the decision, there's going to be a risk, right? So what allows you to make that decision knowing all that risk?
Well, it all comes down, but your initial question was how much should you value the lesson, right? Now, it doesn't matter if it's a fail or success, or are you solely focusing on failing?
Well, no,
is there really? Well, there's value on both ends, looking at it from the success point of view and also from the failing side. But which one do you want to focus on, or you want to focus on both?
Well, let's say because when you make a decision, right, your hope is for it to be successful, right? And that's the value in it. But now let's say there's a pretty good chance that it's not going to go well, right? Mm-hmm. So should you still decide to take that risk?
So I say only take the risk when you feel that you have done, and again, this goes back to how due diligence is king. Brought that up earlier. When you personally, it doesn't fucking matter what anybody else thinks, but you personally feel that you've done everything you possibly can to put in the work to make sure it was potentially presented to be a successful outcome. So at the end of the day, you're always going to have some critics, people that are going to say, basically, you've got to be open to feedback. And so you're going to have to learn how to listen to these critiques without your ego. And sometimes it's going to fucking hurt and it's going to annoy you and it's going to bother the shit out of you. And you might have some kind of vendetta against this person. Like, I'm going to do this now because I'm going to prove you wrong. Right? But I'd like to say one thing I've learned throughout the years is to put that aside. Doesn't mean that it doesn't still bother me. It does bother me. However, I acknowledge that it bothers me. I take myself out of my head and I said, look, okay, at the end of the day, they saw something that was wrong with it. Let me do my best to now address what they saw because they possibly saw something that I didn't see. I'll fix it. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean I'm going to just continue to work on presenting the best possible strategy or plan that I'm trying to put together for something that requires action. Because if there's one thing I even go ahead and talk to all of my clients about, and of course this is in real estate, so I'm presenting it in that manner, is we have to frame the deadline of something. So you need to still prioritize deadline. What is the deadline that you're giving yourself to initially have some form of success or failure? Either one of those two, because the only two can happen. It can't just be null, right? So if the deadline is a month from now, 2 weeks, 1 week, 6 months, a year, etc., okay, you keep that deadline in play because you can continue to keep adding to this theory of plan until it's actually executed, right? You can continue to add to it and you'll never present it and you're just fucking there. Before you know it, you've wasted nothing but time. But keep the deadline always in mind. Do your best. And so the lessons, I think the lessons, lately, God has blessed me with some success, but I've also gone through my failures. And I like to think that both success and failure have amazing value towards the lessons learned. Success, like, hey, I didn't wait. Everybody told me it was not going to work out. Everyone said, you know, you're kind of dumb for moving forward with this. I don't see why someone like you would take a risk like this. My position when I moved forward with You Are Home Texas, everyone said, what do you mean you're not going to see these incentives immediately? You have to wait for all of this before you see any form of actual progression, you know, financially and well, for the most part in the beginning it's all financial. I said, yeah, why the fuck would I not? I mean, I understand the risk. I also understand the amount of confidence I have in myself. And so I'm not going to not bet on myself either because I know what I'm capable of. But I understand that the risk is it's going to take some time. Right. And there's no for sure thing.
It's just the playing it out.
And so after I looked at everything and I took everyone's account, I still said, yeah, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to bet on moving forward. And it has worked out amazingly. I've got some amazing leaders, some great management. I myself am currently working on my leadership skills because it's gotten to the point where I have now a set of individuals that look to me as leaders, as a leader as well. So I know I keep adding more to this, but the value and the lessons off of success and failure are both great. I think from success, you see a lot of positive things. Now, it's up to you if you want to critique yourself and say, how can I make this better? But overall, in failure, from my position, that's actually where I've seen the most value. And I'm not saying do things in perspective to fail or wanting to fail. No, it's not what I'm saying. But when you fail and you actually gave it your all and you said, fuck, I put every bit of work and sweat and possibly sometimes some tears into this and you still failed, man, that's normally and even biblically speaking, that's normally where most people have seen the most growth through their failures. They take it personal, some quit, but those that rise the seventh time, right? Those that rise that seventh time, you know, I've seen really, really, you know, spread their wings and fucking fly. And so I will say both values are there from either outcome. But if it's like they say also, you know, what separates a successful person over an unsuccessful person is the amount of tries that they tried without giving up. You know, so their failures eventually got them to that success point that they wanted to be at. You get me?
Yes, you agree? I agree. So it's fallen 6 times, getting up 7, right? And the idea is, you know, you don't fucking stop. You don't give up. So coming down to my take on this aspect, it's difficult, guys. There's no math. There's no fucking black and white answer to this, as I'll say time and time again. My biggest thing has always been you can be the counterpuncher or the aggressor. The counterpuncher, to me, always has the upper hand. Why? Because the initial attacker takes a position first. So it's easy. It's not that it's easier, but it's more tactful to be the counterpuncher and the person that responds to a position. That being said, getting on the offensive side with a defensive mindset is very difficult because you will literally encounter what's called paralysis by analysis. And when you're on the attacker, you're so busy trying to anticipate how the defender from your mindset will respond that you end up getting in this, hold on, they're just going to be able to counter everything. Like, I got to be able to get around it. So it's good for practice and theory, but it's not good for practical because you're going to cut yourself short. Of course, they're going to respond. You can't control how they'll respond. You can anticipate how they'll respond based off of what you would do and have enough, maybe 2 or 3 steps down the line to be able to possibly address it from there. And you go forward and you make that decision. That being said, my life has always been like, go forward, move forward. And, I'm thankful for the leaders that I've been around. I'm thankful for Jaime. I'm thankful for the continuous support that I get from my team. But I will say that it can become difficult to have the mindset that's needed in this position. And it's the mindset that you need is to be able to think. I have to tell you guys, I'm not a natural thinker. No, I'm not someone that naturally wants to ponder in the sense of decisions. I love to analyze. I love to do critical thinking. I love to come up with plans. But it's definitely not something that's natural to me. And that's okay to admit. I mean, I'm more of like, all right, let's go. And that's my biggest trait, but that's also my biggest fuck up, I would say, is because sometimes, doing that initial knee-jerk reaction can have detrimental effects to you and to your client. So that's why I say, like, I agree with Maudi, and my additional thing to this would be, it's also good to have those questions because it grounds you and it creates a sort of middle ground that's just the perfect combination of things. It's a perfect combination of the decision and a perfect combination of the pondering. And it will result in good things. So to me, I'm naturally, guys, I am a risk taker. I am not risk averse. I'm a gambler. But I do think that the more risks you take, there's going to be more losses, but there is potential for more wins too. And it's about getting that 55 to 45 ratio. Try to get the 55% of wins, knowing that you're going to have 45% of losses. You can pick and choose your whole life on certain things, but just know being risk averse also means you're losing out on potential big gains. So teach their own. But I am definitely more of a risk taker than risk averse. So as you can tell, I agree with you overall that I do think that you need to be able to be risk taking if you want to take that. And that's why, there's a bunch of slogans about it. Is you got to risk it to get the biscuit. You got to do this and that. And it's not that they're completely correct, but it is true, guys. I mean, if you want to have that, and it's like in Troy, the movie Troy, in the beginning, when he fights the big guy, the little kid, he tells him when Achilles is on the horse, the little kid's like, man, that's the biggest man I've ever seen. I wouldn't want to fight that guy. And Achilles tells him, well, that's why no one's going to remember your name. So it's, you've got to be a little risky to do that. So that's my official take, where you can reference me later in the future if I don't want to take a risk with you. Just say, bro, you said it yourself, man. Come risk it with me. Nah, hold on now. But that's the take I've got. And I think other people may agree with it. Some won't. But who knows?
We'll find out together.
In other news.
Okay, so, you want to bring up... Let's bring up a closing thought, guys.
Yes.
What do you guys want to bring up?
So this past week I saw Busby. And Tony Busby shared a post. And he said on there that Jane Doe v.
Who's
Shannon
that?
Sharp, the attorney.
Never heard
Tony
of him.
Busby?
Damn, he's going to come after me next. Just watch.
Yeah, he is. You've never heard of me? And he was the guy representing this Zuniga. I think that was her name, right? Something Zuniga. And essentially the girl that Shannon Sharp was, having sexual relations with.
Shannon Sharp. Dude, those guys are fucking funny.
He conceded that they
bro.
were consensual. it was a consensual relationship they had, and that they settled. So that kind of dovetailed into what we were talking about with the UK system.
Just kidding.
No, fuck, no, guys.
He said it's worth it.
No,
it's
not
worth
that.
it. Oh man, Chingal Shannon.
But was it a money grab? Of course it was. Of course it was a fucking money grab. The problem is, you know, and it's the idea like Shannon, like Candace said perfectly. So I'm gonna read that.
All right, so we're pulling up the screen.
Yeah, we're pulling up the screen. I'm gonna read her ex post. Said, I've heard the argument that men shouldn't get married because the courts are unfavorable to men in a divorce. The girl who slept with Shannon Sharp was asking for $10 million, and he just settled. Although we don't know the final settlement amount, the data the public will never get to see is the amount of money that men pay out in quote-unquote shakedown settlements to women they had consensual relations with. So my question is, in today's society, which is perceived as a higher risk to men, in today's society, which is perceived as a higher risk to men, marriage or no marriage, right? Because of the divorce versus the you know, that every woman that you don't marry, they have sexual relations with, is going to end up coming after you. I'm going to tell y'all this, even if you're married, they're going to come after you. You know, I think I don't think it's the right question to ask. I think that's more of a question of where are the women going in their mentality? And it started with the Me Too movement. Remember? This was back with Weinstein, where it was, you know, whole Me Too, I've been whatever X, and not to get too into that, but I don't think it's a question for men. I think it's more of actually a question. Well, she's just wanting to know whether the men want to take that risk.
Yeah, I think.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm gonna pull up something on my screen.
It's a risk-based question.
How do you guys think this guy felt?
I think that guy's just dumb.
Oh man,
bro, what the fuck?
That was all over the fucking internet. The CEO behind some tech company, no?
Yeah, Astronomer.
I've never even heard of that company, but I'm not saying they're not relevant.
Bro, they're behind a Claude.
Oh really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if anything, he did a service to them because now a lot of people know who Astronomer is.
Yeah, no shit.
Hey, as Trump would say, no publicity is bad publicity.
But he resigned. So I'm sure you guys all know this. We know exactly what happened. Tech CEO got caught cheating on his wife at a Coldplay concert with his HR, and the rest is history. No need to get into that, right? But fuck, man.
Well, it's funny because I mean he wasn't technically cheating, but that he was holding her. So that in itself basically just says, yeah, they're in some kind of entanglement.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Oh, look at these two. All right, come on.
Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, look at these two. All right, come on. You okay? Oh, what?
And Chris Martin. Whoa, what? What did I do?
An affair with this very shot. That's a little question.
And then Chris Martin, either they're having an affair.
Yeah, he just calls them out.
Oh man, Chingo.
Well, you hit it right on the nail, Chris Martin.
I open up. Extra.
So was that worth the risk, guys?
I think he thought so, bro. Just AB.
Well, enough to take her.
If he's the CEO, then who put him on leave?
Oh my God.
AB is something called the board, brother. But yeah, anyways, risk management. You know?
Risk management, guys. Don't smoke crack. No, but guys, don't be this guy. I mean, it's to each their own. But going back to the main question on this victim mindset, this idea that men or women can fall victim, it's terrifying the route that the people are going. And it's actually resulting in, you know, less dates. I have no data to support this. but it is resulting in, I would say, a birth crisis. I think birth rates are going down.
Well, let's look at this.
That's something that
quick.
Musk has talked about.
We brought Andrew Tate and his brother to our pod. Let's go ahead and see his take.
My man's about to lose hundreds of millions of dollars for fried egg pussy. In the world we live in, we hate men so much that he's not allowed to have a little bit of pussy after all of his life achievements. He is not allowed. And when he finally decides, you know what, I'm a full-grown man. I've worked really hard. I'm the CEO of a tech company. I'm diligent.
He's got a point. He's like, you know what? Fuck
I
this.
deserve to be happy too. I deserve to feel wanted. I finally found some fried egg pussy. I want to go to a Coldplay concert. Now he has to lose half his fucking money. What she did to her husband is worse than what he did to his wife.
I agree with that.
About his wife and how much money she deserves. Why the fuck even get married then? The correct response to the man who had the spotlight thrown on him is to stand there like a real holding his beach. And the correct response on the internet is, why is he with a 50-year-old? He should be with a 21-year-old.
Okay, so obviously a very interesting perspective, right? You know, we already all know Andrew Tate's constantly always promoting how many wives, or not wives, but how many baby mamas he's got. I don't know. I don't think he's married to any one of them. But the last I heard, he shared that he's got double-digit amount of kids. So maybe
I saw that
from 10 or a little bit more than that. But what I will get at is this. Again, everything comes down to values. So you'll have some people who value being in a one marriage, some that say, I believe in having multiple wives, and some that say, like Andrew Tate, I don't believe in having any wives. My value is providing for the women that have my children, and that is initially how I'm contributing towards my value to them. I can still do what I want, have some more kids, have some more, I guess, pleasures, right, in life. But again, it just comes down to what your values are. If you are in a committed marriage where you made the commitment to solely be to each other, then yes, you're in the wrong. And in this case, the way they both reacted, that's probably the type of commitment that they had with their spouse.
Absolutely.
So if that is, then of course he's totally in the wrong. But if you have a position where you and your partner are in this type of relationship where they say, you know what, you are the man, you are the breadwinner, and you're extremely successful, I'm not going to dictate and tell you that these are the restrictions I have on you. It just comes down to the basics and the foundation of what the relationship is you have. That's my stance.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree, man. Like, if in the context they talked about it, they said, hey, this is our relationship, this is what we're going to do, then I completely agree with Andrew. But if not, and like you said, based on how they reacted, obviously they were doing something they were supposed to do, as they probably discussed it with their significant others. So there you have it.
I'm gonna say this, Mo, and I know you can resonate with it because we were talking about it earlier. King David.
Yep. King
Amnon,
David, bro. Yep.
Absalom.
Oh, keep him coming.
Adonijah.
Yep.
And Solomon.
That's right. Which was one of the wisest kings.
Or the wisest, I would believe.
Yeah,
I believe.
wisest.
Yeah, one of. I guess you could say that. I don't know.
I know you speaking.
Yes. And it was, for those of you that aren't aware of that was King David's children. And King David was the king of Israel. And that's how they do and fulfill one of the prophecies that makes Jesus the Messiah. It's the fact that Jesus' father, though not his biological father, because Jesus came from God, but his father was a direct lineage to King David. Mm-hmm. And that's aside the point. But the point that we're making is these sons became so not corrupt, but their rivalry became so embedded within each other, where it's almost as if, okay, King David at the time may have been taking that risk, may have been fathering many children with different wives, but was that worth it? Was the potential progress out of it worth it? Some would argue yes, because look what we got. We got the Book of Solomon. We've got a lineage that ultimately led to the birth of Jesus. So it's debatable on was it worth it? But at the end of it, what was the cost? Was it the cost that, you had a rivalry and a fractured familial line that could not get along? Was it the cost that, promises of prosperity by King David and promises of progression, which ultimately happened? But was it worth that cost? I don't know. Sometimes people would say it's for a divine purpose. It's for a greater purpose. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that this CEO is justified in what he did, because let's admit it wasn't for any higher sort of purpose or deal. But, it's wisdom nonetheless. It's wisdom on the fact that this isn't new. This stuff happens. And Andrew Tate saying that this was something that he's entitled to is definitely subjective. But, what's the end game? What's the purpose? With David, it was pretty obvious. King David was creating multiple lines of legacy. The heir and the spare sort of situation. But in this situation involving the CEO and even involving Tate, I don't know what is. I mean, it's pretty clear with Tate, he has the same idea behind King David, which was my legacy. His thing is always my legacy. My kids go out. Somebody's going to do something and carry on the name, the Tate name. That's his purpose. This CEO is probably clearly for the pleasure.
Yeah, of course, man. And so that's what our stance is, since I believe we're initially sharing the Christian value, right? And right, yes, right. Oh, right. But to go even into just some facts, what if I told you, because you brought up one of the sons from King David, which is King Solomon now, right? And again, one of the wisest or the wisest king ever to initially be in the throne. And an interesting fact with him was, did you know he had nothing less of 700 wives and 300 concubines?
Shit, I did not know that.
Did you know that? Yeah. This man loved women, just so you know. And so although he was the wisest, even he knew his biggest downfall was his lust for women. And it just goes to show you that, yes, a man can have value solely providing to many wives or many concubines and having all these children, but when you're no longer in or on this earth to continue to dictate or keep structure amongst your children, and it's shown biblically through history, these sons and daughters will turn on each other. And guess what? At least from what I've seen, it's the fastest way to lose your family power. So everything that you initially built up to initially have for your family tends to all go away. Does not last. As we all know, we all meet our date. So, yep, that's that. But I really don't have anything else to share about this other than, risk management is a real thing when it comes to business, when it comes to politics, when it comes to personal matters, when it comes to, and personal, we got into more on the, I guess on the marital side of things, how you manage your love life. But I don't know, guys, just keep into mind the
risk.
Yeah. Find a way to be a better risk taker.
Yeah. And is it being packaged as innovation? Is it being packaged as progress? At the end of the day, what is innovation, right? And to me, innovation is something that results in progress for the humans, progress in whatever the case may be. And innovation is changing the norm towards something to be more efficient. That is my definition. Go find the textbook definition if you want. But that is my definition based off my interpretation of it. So what are you going to innovate through that risk? Is it something for self-pleasure? Is it for something that goes beyond that for legacy purposes? Is it something towards that's selfless and goes towards the humans overall? Who knows? But really think about that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea is that AI is it's advancing, right? Technology is advancing. So the idea is that, we're trying to stay up to date with how it is currently going to be used or will be used in the future and how that'll impact us.
So at the end of it all, guys,
stay tuned.
Manage it. Don't get managed by it.
Right. Oh shit, I like that. Everybody, stay tuned.
I should probably be in there with thugging them or be in there with gunning them. If they locking niggas up for growing up around some hitters trying to govern them or